Hey guys, thanks for watching. Like I said, I'm going to go over some dehydrated meal ideas for you. And I got to give full credit to Bill on this because years ago I used to just kind of buy dehydrated meals. I think I've covered that where I'm not a big fan of them. So Bill gave me the idea of, hey, why can't we make our own? And he's more of the cook than I am, so he came up with an idea, and I just thought I'd share with you some of the dehydrated meals that we make ourselves, how you can do it, and how they're a huge improvement on any dehydrated meal that you're gonna bring into the backcountry. So I'm gonna let Bill take over from here and explain everything you need to know to make the best dehydrated meals you're ever gonna have. All right, buddy, it's all yours.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, like Scott, I did not like the stuff that was out there at the time. They have improved greatly, but having said that, we can cut the costs down and specify what it is that we like about it and tweak it a little bit without having to just stay with what is corporately or commercially available. So in order to do this, you basically got to get your head around what foods are already shelf stable, because we're going into the backcountry. We want to bring things that don't require refrigeration, don't require any type of storage. So you find things that are shelf stable. What do I mean by shelf stable? The type of things that you store in your cupboard that are just there without refrigeration. So you think of things like Kraft Parmesan cheese. Sits on a shelf. You buy it in the store, you don't have to get it in the freezer food aisle or the dairy or the refrigerated aisle. All of these things just come off of the shelf. So if you think about what it is you want to make, we try to use things that are already shelf stable. So I try to work with what we already have or what's already shelf stable, and try, instead of trying to make a dish like, let's say, roast beef with mashed potatoes and gravy. None of those things are shelf stable. So to try to make something like that is rather difficult, and you got to get into all kinds of congealers and stabilizers, and it's crazy. For those of us that just want to go to the backcountry, let's work with what we got. The other thing too, we're never into the backcountry more than a week or so, and truth be told, most of us carry around a good chunk of our food with us and could survive the week without it. So let's just keep this simple. So the first dish I'm going to do is one that I really like. I call it a creamy chicken Alfredo. I am really stretching the rules here, but basically we're looking at chicken as our protein, some type of starch-based noodle, and a nice sauce to go with it. So let's start with the noodle. We tried a lot of different noodles out over the years, and I've tried egg noodles, we've tried rice noodles. Rice noodles tend to break down once they're exposed to water too long. Other types of noodles would just crumble. One of the things that we found, that a group of people that have figured this out, the same noodles that you would use for ramen. So any hand-rolled Asian Chinese noodle that you find, it's already dehydrated, it's rolled, it rehydrates very quickly in water. It usually takes only about a minute or two, and then it stays stable in the liquid. It doesn't continue breaking down further. There's a lot of different brands. Usually they come in some type of puck, like in these, they're square pucks. This one we're using has got round pucks. Sometimes they're made with duck egg noodles, sometimes they're just regular egg, but the key is they're shelf stable, they stay dry, they're already made with a type of protein, it being a type of egg. So for this recipe, we're gonna start off with 2 pucks of these. You figure almost a puck per person. I'm using a kind of a storage seal, vacuum sealed bag. You can use a Ziploc bag. I like to put what the meal is, what I require to rehydrate it, and how long at minimum I'm going to let it to rehydrate. So in this case, I need 2 cups of H2O and let it sit for 10 minutes, and tends to work fairly well. Scott's going to have the recipes right on the bottom of his video later on, so you can take a look at them in detail. But here we go. This is for one person by themselves if you're really hungry, or it can be split between 2 people if you're just using this as a side dish, let's say to go along with the fish that you caught that night. So let's start off. We got our 2 pucks. Now let's look at our protein. In this case here, I'm going to use chicken. Mountain House does a great job in being able to dehydrate chicken and have it shelf stable for a long period of time. They say that this can, unsealed, is shelf stable for 25 years. So all that goes out the window when you unseal the can. It's got a lid to go back on it, but this is designed to literally add water to this to just have a whole mess of cooked chicken. We're not going to use it that way. You think, okay, wait a minute, that's a lot of chicken. Well, fortunately, it's already freeze dried. So when we have whatever we don't use the previous year, we put in a self-sealing vacuum seal bag or in a Ziploc bag. We use the desiccants and you just throw it right back into your freezer and it keeps to the next season very easily. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use some things that I didn't finish last year, and I'm gonna show you something else that kind of uses a little bit of a trick. That as the chicken breaks down, you get a lot of it in very, very large pieces, which is great for your entrees. But at the bottom of the can, you're gonna get this powder. And this powder is nothing more than dehydrated chicken. Keep that at the end because I always put together 1 or 2 chicken noodle soups just to have as an extra meal when what I had didn't quite cut it, or we didn't catch any fish, or it's just been rainy for a while and we're sitting in the tent and I really just want a nice hot chicken noodle soup. This stuff rehydrates back to chicken. Mind you, it's all fairly small, but it works well in a soup. So don't think that, oh, it's a waste of powder, I'm gonna throw it away. Keep this for chicken soup, and we're gonna make one of those a little later. So to the 2 pucks, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of diced chicken. And again, this is where you get to make it the way you want. If you like it with a little bit more chicken, you can add more than 1/2 cup. And I'm gonna do that in this case here because I'm getting down to the kind of the nitty gritty. So I'm gonna, a fair amount of powder there. So this one's probably almost 3/4 a cup of chicken. And that's my protein. So this is 1 meal. I'm gonna make 2 of these for, because it's a good one, I'm gonna double it up. But we're gonna put that aside for now. So we've got our noodles and our protein. So now let's flavor it. When you think about a chicken Alfredo, what do you flavor it with? Italian seasoning. We're gonna go with about a tablespoon of Italian seasoned blend. Fortunately, that's where we're at the end of this. We're gonna go with a little bit of salt and pepper. So I'm just gonna lower it down here so I can get it in. Gonna go with about a few grinds of salt, 1/2 teaspoon or so, a few grinds of pepper. I like it a little peppery, so maybe up to about a teaspoon. So now we've flavored it so far with salt, pepper, Italian seasoning. Gonna add a little bit of garlic powder. So again, you can put how much you like. I'm gonna add about 1/2 teaspoon, which this is, maybe a generous 1/2 teaspoon. I like things a little garlicky. So now you think, okay, where it's going to get its flavor? Chicken bouillon cubes. So when we put water in, it's just going to be water with no flavor. But to accentuate the chicken flavor, we're going to add 2 cubes or 2 teaspoons if you have chicken stock all by itself, like powdered form. I like these. Again, where do you store it? You store it on your shelf. It's in your cupboard. It's shelf stable. They're very high in sodium, so they stick around for a long time without any type of preservatives. So we're gonna put 2 of those in here. So now we're working on our sauce. So we've got those flavors in there. The water is gonna start our sauce. The chicken cubes are going to 1 per cup. So there we go. So there's gonna be 2 cups of water. So we put in 2 chicken cubes. But now, to make it creamy, we're gonna need a milk of some kind. And milk, it's one of those things that's heavy to carry into the bush. It's hard to keep from turning on you, whereas skim milk powder, again, you buy it off the shelf, it's inert. Every time you wanna make a cup of skim milk, you add 4 tablespoons of powder to 1 cup. So, if that's the case, we're adding 2 cups of water to this. Some of that's going to be flavored with the chicken broth, but if we want to make this a little creamier, by the rules here, we should be adding about 8 tablespoons of the milk powder to offset the 2 cups of water we're putting in. That, we've tried it. It turns out to be a little too strong. So in this case, we're going to go with, we're going to cut it in half. So it'll be 4 tablespoons of the skim milk powder. So we have 1. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we're building up our sauce now. It's going to be a little on the milky, creamy side, but we really like that kind of cheesy element. So instead of using a really high grade Parmesan where we're taking it out of the fridge and grate it into there, it's not shelf stable, whereas this stuff is. So we're gonna go with 4 tablespoons of Kraft Parmesan cheese. And again, if you like it really cheesy, just be a little generous with your tablespoons. So there we go. Now, one of the flavors I really like, especially with cooking in this manner, is dried mushrooms. So right now, you could leave it like this if you don't like mushrooms, but I like dried mushrooms in it. You can buy these large bags of dried porcini mushrooms. I get this at an Italian grocery store. It's a lot cheaper to buy it in a larger amount. If you can find it in a bulk food store, it's another great location to shop for items like this, because at the bulk food store, everything is sitting out at room temperature, all shelf stable. So in this case, I'm gonna add about half a cup of dried porcini mushrooms. I really like it. If you don't like mushrooms, don't put them in. One of the other things you could add in lieu of this, if you want, you could put in flaked dehydrated onions. Again, you can find it at a bulk food store. Put in some dehydrated onions. The other thing that works well with this dish is bacon. Bacon kind of goes good with everything. You can use real bacon bits in this case, or especially if you dehydrate your own. Again, because of the oil content in them, they sometimes can turn and go rancid. So I don't know how long you're going to make this in advance or how long they're going to sit shelf stable, but I find the assimilated bacon bits give you the flavor that you want anyway. So at least a good tablespoon of those. So if you think of this, now we got bacon, we got cheese, we got mushroom. How can this go wrong? And the last thing we need now is just a little bit of a thickener to thicken that sauce up, or we can also add a little bit of vegetable if you want. You think this is fairly high in protein, we don't have a lot of veg. When we're out in the bush, one of the things we don't get a lot is vegetables. So there's a few different companies that make some great dehydrated vegetables. This one here, Karen's Naturals, great brand. You can eat these as a snack as well. They're already dehydrated. It works out well. There's a few other ones. Mountain House does some. This is a fire roasted vegetable blend. Bell peppers, onions, corn, black beans. You can use that for a dish. So the just veggies I like them so much I bought them in bulk. Again, once we open the bag, I just keep these stored in the freezer with the desiccant bag still in, which helps keep them dehydrated. This is not edible, but you find these in everything you need to keep dry. So let's add a half a cup of mixed vegetables to this. So these will rehydrate as well with the water that we're adding. And now just a little bit of cornstarch to keep it thicker. So just, here we're in Canada, everybody's favorite. It's in everybody's pantry for the most part. So to this, we're gonna add just 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now you're thinking to yourself, wow, that 2 cups of water is rehydrating a lot of things, flavoring a lot of things, creating the sauce, and it's going to thicken up with the cornstarch. So this might be a little on the thick side, and it can be. So it's one of those things that put 2 cups of water to start, let it rehydrate. If you like it a little, the thickness that it is, you can eat it like that. If you want it a little thinner, just add a little bit more hot water. So at this point now, all we have to do is put this in the vacuum sealer, cut it off, and we've got one meal for 2 people. 1 person if you're starving, but 2 people as a side to go with the fish. Enjoy. Okay, into the vacuum sealer. Another great bit of kit to have, $100 on Amazon. And here we are now, shelf stable, doesn't require anything, and this is going to sit like this for a long time. If you even want to put together an emergency kit, right now you see across the province of Ontario, everybody's talking about having 72 hours of food and water available. You can make a couple of these and they can sit like this for months. And, give your kid a test, break them out, make some new ones later on. Enjoy.